Imagine a universe, our universe, but with a dark reflection, a parallel dimension of pure psychic energy. This was the warp, or as it's also known, the immaterium in the earliest days of humanity. Long before the Emperor walked among men, this realm was relatively calm. It was a vast, formless ocean of potential, mirroring the reality we call real space. It wasn't good or evil. It simply was. A realm of raw soul stuff, alive and aware, but without the malevolent consciousness that would later define it. The emotions and thoughts of living beings in the material universe would ripple through its currents, but these were like gentle breezes on a vast ocean. The universe was young, and the psychic footprint of its inhabitants was faint. The Eldari, the ancient race we now call the Eldar, were at their zenith, their psychic might unparalleled, but even their powerful emotions were just another current in this immense neutral sea. For untold millennia, this balance held. The warp was a dangerous place, yes, full of strange, non-sentient entities, but it wasn't the hellscape we know today. Then, the balance shattered. The Eldari Empire, once the jewel of the galaxy, spiraled into decadence. Their society, free from strife and toil, sought ever greater extremes of sensation. For thousands of years, they indulged in every pleasure, every vice, every dark thought imaginable. Their psychic might, once a source of creation and wonder, now poured into the warp as a torrent of pure, undiluted depravity. Every act of cruelty, every moment of excess, every whisper of arrogance echoed and amplified within the This psychic filth began to coalesce, to gain a terrible burgeoning consciousness. The gentle currents of the warp became a raging storm of hatred, lust, and despair. The Eldari, in their arrogance, had fed the darkness until it became a god. With a psychic scream that tore a hole in the fabric of reality itself, a new power was born, Slanesh, the Prince of Pleasure, the Dark Prince of Chaos. The birth of this fourth Chaos God was so violent it ripped open the Eye of Terror, a permanent wound in the galaxy where the warp leads into real space. This cataclysm wiped out the majority of the Eldari race in a single horrifying instant, their souls consumed by the very god they had created. The warp was no longer a neutral ocean. It was now the realm of chaos, a dominion of gods born from the darkest aspects of the mortal soul. It's intimately, terrifyingly connected to every thinking, feeling, being in the galaxy. It is the very source of what we call the soul. They ripple into the immaterium, feeding the entities that dwell there. Every spark of hope, every surge of anger, every pang of despair is a drop of fuel for the unholy fires of chaos. This relationship is parasitic, a horrifying symbiosis. The denizens of the warp, the demons, are formed from our collective emotions. They crave these emotions. They hunger for our souls, because without them, they are nothing. And in turn, they whisper back into our minds, fanning the flames of our worst impulses, promising power, knowledge, and sensation, all in a bid to corrupt us and drag our souls into their nightmare domain. Psychers, those individuals with the ability to consciously channel the warp's power, walk the most dangerous tightrope of all. They wield incredible abilities, able to reshape reality with a thought, but they are also open conduits, beacons shining in the dark. For them, the whispers are a constant roar, the temptations a relentless siege upon their sanity. To be a psyker is to have one foot in reality and one in hell, and the slightest misstep can lead to demonic possession, a fate where your body becomes a puppet for a monstrous entity, your soul a screaming prisoner within its own flesh. This is the terrible price of power, the horrifying reality of the galaxy's psychic nature. The power of the warp is the foundation for almost everything that defies the cold, hard laws of physics. It is the stuff of magic, of sorcery, of miracles and curses. When a chaos sorcerer chants an incantation to boil the blood of his enemies, he is shaping the raw energy of the warp into a weapon. When a librarian of the Space Marines shields his brothers with a psychic barrier, he is drawing upon that same chaotic ocean, but attempting to wield it with discipline and faith. The power it offers is immense, but it comes at a terrible cost, often eroding the user's sanity and soul. We see its unstoppable reality-bending nature in the very scars it has left upon the galaxy. The Eye of Terror is not just a storm. It is a region of space, hundreds of light-years across, where physics has been replaced by the lunatic whims of the chaos. Gods, planets there are made of screaming faces. Stars burn with multicolored hatred, and time flows backward, forward, or not at all. It is a glimpse into the madness that would consume everything if chaos were to triumph. And now, we face an even greater wound. The Cicatrix, Maledictum, the Great Rift. A colossal tear in the fabric of reality that has split the entire galaxy in two. It was torn open by the machinations of Abaddon, the Despoiler, a wound so vast it has plunged half of the Imperium into a new dark age, cut off from the light of the Astronomicon. This is the ultimate power of the warp, not just to influence reality, but to tear it apart, to remake it in its own horrific image. It is an existential threat, an ocean of madness lapping at the shores of our existence, forever seeking to drown us all. Life in the 41st millennium is to exist in the shadow of this cosmic horror. For the average citizen of the Imperium, The warp is a concept spoken of only in fearful whispers, the domain of heretics and monsters, but its influence is everywhere. Travel between star systems is only possible by plunging ships through this hellish dimension. Navigators, mutated humans with a third eye, are essential to guide vessels through the Immaterium's treacherous currents. These journeys are fraught with peril. Time can become distorted. A journey that should take weeks can last for centuries in real space, or a ship can arrive at its destination before it even left. But that is the least of the dangers. The Geller field, a bubble of real space projected around the ship, is the only thing protecting the crew from the horrors outside. If it flickers, even for a second, the consequences are unimaginable. Demons can manifest on the decks, slaughtering the crew in a tide of blood and terror. The ship's own crew can be driven mad by the psychic whispers seeping through the hull, turning on each other in a frenzy of paranoia and violence. Sometimes, a ship simply vanishes, its tortured screams echoing in the warp for eternity. Or worse, it re-emerges centuries later, a ghost ship. Its crew fused into the very metal of the bulkheads, their bodies twisted into an eternal chorus of agony. This is the price of interstellar civilization. Every shipment of food, every transport of soldiers, every communication across the void requires a gamble with damnation. It does not seek merely to destroy, it seeks to twist, to defile, to turn everything into a monstrous parody of its former self. A brave soldier's courage is twisted into the bloodthirsty rage of a cornburser. A scholar's thirst for knowledge becomes the obsessive, mutating ambition of a follower of Sianch. A healer's desire to end suffering is perverted into the joyful spreading of plague by a devotee of Nurgle. The pursuit of perfection, whether in art or in combat, can become the self-obsessed depravity of a worshipper of Slaanesh. No virtue is safe, no strength immune. The Chaos Gods are mirrors of our own souls, and they show us the ugliest possible reflections. The galaxy is littered with the ruins of worlds that have fallen to chaos. Here, the very ground can writhe in agony. Rivers of blood flow uphill, and the sky burns with shrieking spectral faces. The population is either dead or has become something far, far worse. Gibbering cultists, mutated monstrosities known as Chaos Spawn, or the possessed husks for demonic entities. To set foot on such a world is to invite madness and death. These are not just battlefields. They are spiritual cancers on the map of the galaxy, a constant, horrifying reminder of the ultimate fate that awaits any world that falters in its vigilance. In the face of such an overwhelming existential threat, how does humanity even survive? The answer is faith in ignorance, enforced with brutal, unflinching authority. The Imperial Creed is the bedrock of the Imperium's defense. Billions upon billions of humans direct their worship towards the Emperor of mankind. This collective psychic energy acts as a bulwark against the darkness. The Emperor, sitting near dead upon the golden throne, is not just a ruler but a psychic lighthouse. The Astronomicon, a psychic beacon powered by the daily sacrifice of 1,000 souls, is the only thing that allows navigators to steer through the warp with any hope of success. It is a sliver of light in an infinite darkness, a symbol of humanity's defiance. The agents of the Imperium, particularly the Inquisition, are tasked with rooting out the taint of chaos wherever it may be found. Their methods are extreme and utterly ruthless. An entire world might be subjected to exterminatus total annihilation from orbit for the mere suspicion of chaos taint. 1 billion lives extinguished to prevent the cancer from spreading. It is a monstrous calculus, but in a galaxy where a single cultist can potentially doom a world, it is a price the Imperium is willing to pay. To be an individual in this regime is to be a cog in a vast, uncaring machine. Your life is meaningless except in service to the Emperor and the continued survival of the species. You are taught to fear the unknown, to hate the mutant and the alien, and to report any sign of deviancy. Ignorance is your shield, faith your weapon, and obedience your only salvation. This constant, galaxy-spanning war against chaos is not just fought with bolters and chainswords, but in the minds and souls of every living being. The battle is eternal. The Imperium may win 1,000 victories, purge 1,000,000 cults, and burn 100 worlds, but it can never truly win, because the enemy is not just an external force. The enemy is within. The Chaos Gods were born from the emotions of mortals, and they are fed by them every single second of every single day. As long as there is life in the galaxy, there will be ambition. There will be ambition. There will be despair. There will be pride. As long as mortals feel, chaos will exist. This is the ultimate soul-crushing horror of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Humanity is trapped in a feedback loop of its own making. The brutal, oppressive nature of the Imperium, designed to fight chaos, breeds the very fear, hatred, and despair that gives chaos its power. The endless wars fought in the Emperor's name create the rage and bloodshed that empowers Khorne. The stagnation and decay of the Imperium's vast bureaucracy is a garden in which Nurgle's plagues can flourish. The desperate schemes and plots to survive or gain an advantage are the very stuff of Tisanch's great game. The fleeting moments of pleasure or relief in an otherwise grim existence can be the hook that Slaanesh uses to ensnare a soul. Humanity is fighting a war against its own nature. a war it can never hope to win, only to endure. The best it can hope for is to hold back the tide of damnation for one more day, to buy a few more miserable hours of existence before the inevitable, screaming end. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and the laughter of thirsting gods. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of darkness. If you found this exploration of the warp compelling, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more lore from the 41st millennium. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Let us know in the comments what aspect of this horrific reality you find most terrifying. For the Emperor, we'll see you next time.